What I learned from trolling a rocket. I got in a bit of a thread kind of conversation with David. I mean, he forcibly removed me from his group. I just noticed one day I wasn't in the group. I mean, from 1 to 10, how much do I honestly care? About a 3. I felt like the group was low energy. I felt like everybody in there was kind of lazy. And I felt like everyone is just trying to automate. He comes from like a tech graphic design, I guess, kind of UI. AI kind of background. It seems like I don't really know. Forbes 30 under 30. I mean, I don't know how much money that means net worth, but obviously I think he's probably a millionaire. So, dude's done pretty well. He's done better than I've done in my life. However, I was just running a lot of red energy that day and I was just doing a lot of this I was just like putting red energy into a lot of content. I was in a red day. When I'm red, I'm just going in. I'm just trying to solve problems. Like because I'm a projector and a white mirror in human design, like oftentimes I see what the limitation is. So many people in his group were saying, like, yeah, once you have the workflow and the process, and I'm like, but what are you automating? You know what I mean? Dude, what are you automating to get new members and to get new traffic? They didn't have an answer. So I'm like, well, dude, like you can't hack like human connection. You can't automate you actually like I believe that this universe is like almost entirely energetic. It's the red energy that pulls in business and money. The delivery method may be blue, sky blue, but by red energy, I mean every single time you choose to act when you could be procrastinating or taking time off or just, not doing it. So I just look at red here as every single time I push myself to produce above baseline. Baseline means obviously, you got to have some way of survival. If you have a roof over your head and you have, 2, 3 meals a day, you're surviving. All we really need is calories and then not to get sick, and you'll probably be fine. But anything that you choose to do above baseline survival is what I call red. You know, you work a job. I don't love the job, but I have to do it. Okay, well, I don't want to go through all these posts. I want to just be viral. Okay, well, did you post in every single group? You know what I mean? There's like a refresh on the amount of times that you can post in a group without being annoying. So, okay, go ahead and post in every single group that you think would be worth posting in. But some groups, I don't think you should post every day. That may come across as too solicitous or annoying. I think every 3 to 5 days is fine in a brand new group. But, anyways, so I was arguing with David by basically just saying, like, dude, you probably think that I'm a nobody, and you probably have every right to think, like, whatever, who cares? If people are annoying me or a threat or just weird, then you can just remove them. But you need to know, David, forcibly removing people creates them into an enemy. It creates an enemy. Like the people that churn my group, left my group, only 4 people have left my group. It doesn't mean that they are enemies, but it does mean like, ugh, I don't ever want to support you ever again in the future. We just can't help it. Rejection just stings and it creates a very negative reaction. So there are some people in my group that I'm in their group, and if we weren't supporting each other, I probably wouldn't be in their group. That's the honest fact. I don't sugarcoat things. I'm not afraid of confrontation and conflict. That is the honest truth. I mean, I think the content's kind of boring, but, if I leave their group, I know that that's going to hurt them and be offensive, and then they're just going to leave my group. So, whatever. I'll stay in your group. If we were doing support for support, that's fine, but I'm no longer doing support for support unless I genuinely am curious about their group. Then I'll do support for support. Support for support should be like, I genuinely think this person is interesting and I like their content, and I'll join their group. And I'll hope that they'll join my group, but, it's not necessary. That's genuine resonance. Support for support means I don't exactly even care about this topic or niche, but we're just in each other's groups. Okay, whatever, a single number, like who cares? Once you get to 1,000 people in your group, like who cares, man? A 0.1%, it doesn't really matter. So anyways, what can I learn from this? I feel like we exchanged mental energy briefly. That was the fastest way to get in his head by commenting a negative thing on his post. But he's kind of is just like farming attention in Goosify. He never actually contributes in the group. He just posts like bragging posts to get people to talk about his success and join his group. So, you know what I mean? He is kind of using the Goosify traffic to get more attention, you know, and everybody does it, so it's okay to some degree. But I was the only person that commented a negative thing because it's like, dude, you kind of annoyed me. Like, did I break any rules? No. Did I threaten anyone directly? No. I just challenged people and they didn't like my opinions because I told them the truth and they don't like the truth. The truth is, you're trying to automate like success and you're just not taking enough action, man. And that was the reoccurring theme that I saw in his group like over and over and over again. And I felt compelled to speak on it. You know, I'm like, guys, like your automation workflow or your NAN or your, you know, your fucking tech that helps you streamline processes, that's not your bottleneck. Your bottleneck is you're not fucking working. You're trying to automate work. And, you know, this is the problem with tech people. They're so smart, they're brilliant, but if you're really good at design and pulling it off and then networking, like you can probably get rich by being lazy. But for most people, like, dude, that's never going to happen. Do you know what I mean? So I felt compelled to inject some testosterone into his group. They felt threatened. He showed me a couple of screenshots that said, like, one person said I look like I'm weird, like he's really weird. I just felt really weird vibes from him. He's only in like women's groups. I'm like, bro, those are my friends. I'm in their groups because we're supporting each other, first of all. That just goes to show you what happens when you judge someone before giving them a shot, which is exactly what they did to me. You judged me, you labeled me as a threatening person or a hostile person or a weird person. I'm definitely am a weird person, but I'm extremely socially, you know, capable. So you're wrong in that regard. Am I a threat? I told you things that you don't want to hear, but I told you them because I think you need to hear it. That's not me trying to get business from you. That's me telling you what I genuinely think, like your soul would tell you. If I'm operating in my higher self and I can tell, like, dude, you're trying to automate shit and you're all in your head and you think it's workflow, you need to actually fucking go out into the field and go get some money, dude. You need to build conversations. That's the bottleneck, not you automating conversations. Like, what are you automating? They could never give me a straight answer. I was trying to pin them down and say, dude, what are you automating? There's nothing to automate, man. You got to get new members and you got to get leads and you got to book appointments and do calls. Like the thing is like they probably don't even have an offer. They probably don't know what they're doing. So they're just trying to say what sounds flashy. It sounds flashy to say, well, AI can reduce your workload by 80%. That sounds flashy, but that's not actually true, guys. You can have a chat bot, you can use AI to design websites. You know, you can save a lot of the manpower on creative and editing and even copy and even content like ideas, but you can't actually get AI to fucking do the work. You can try to use AI to like talk to people, but AI is not developed enough to where you don't realize that it's a robot. Do you know what I mean? Like AI just there's too many nuances of like personality. I don't think AI makes for a convincing relationship. Maybe there are AI programs that are so convincing that you have no idea that it's not a human, but for the most part, most basic, most low-cost AI or all AI, I don't think is quite there. So that was what I was trying to do. I'm trying to awaken a delusional person who thinks they're going to automate their way to fame and fortune. It's just not going to happen. You guys want to believe that, and that's the whole AI kind of fad. Everybody jumps on the AI fad because they think that I can work less and my life will get easier and I can automate making money. Very, very rarely is someone able to automate their business quickly and get really rich, like less than 1%. These are outliers. It is very unrealistic. You still gotta hustle. You still gotta book calls and line up appointments. Okay. Anyways, I did learn from this, you know, challenge. Personally, I thought David was kind of a low energy person, and I think he's kind of selling a lie. Like, you can use AI and you can automate to a certain extent, but I think it's actually wrong, fundamentally and morally unethical, to kind of lead people on to think that it's just about workflows and automation when it's like, dude, you gotta hustle, man. You gotta get asses in the seat. You gotta get phone calls. You gotta get people on the phone. Like, it's a grind. So I think it's wrong, and I think it's slightly unethical to mislead people to think that success is going to be much easier than it actually is, such as telling people it's easy to get coaching clients. I think if you really bust your ass, you can get high ticket clients and cycle in less than 30 days. I do believe that, but it would be wrong for me to mislead you and say 10K months within 90 days. I don't believe that's realistic. If you've never learned sales, if you don't have any experience, if you don't even have an offer yet, that would be such a huge stretch. It would feel dishonest to tell people that. So I don't tell people that. I really do believe if you really go for it, I can help you get a client within 1 or 2 months. You may not even need my help. You may be so self-motivated that you don't need a coach. Not everybody needs a coach, and not everybody needs a business coach. It's also wrong for coaches to kind of like withhold information, to kind of always get them to come back to them like a dark psychologist. Well, what happens when the patient is healed? Then they no longer need your help, but then you don't have a consistent, revenue stream from the client. So, you fully heal them and then they fire you. You know what I mean? That's what you get for doing a great job. They fire you and stop giving you money. Anyways, these are just interesting things to talk about. But, bro, you should not have forcibly removed me because now you created an enemy in me. Now, I'm not saying I'm a trillionaire or a super high worth guy, super well connected, but I think I will be. And, maybe you just don't care. I don't know. It's our ego. While you're cutting someone who could be really valuable for you in the future. And maybe he feels the same way about me. He may think, dude, I'm already a millionaire and I don't give a fuck. You're annoying me. I'm just saying it's a bad PR move to forcibly evict someone from your group before giving them a shot. I'm not a crazy person, but some people are fucking crazy and they will literally now want to harm you because they felt like you hurt them and rejected them and abandoned them. There are some psychopaths out there who will literally be out for blood. Not me. I don't have time for that. I could tell that he was not really someone that I look up to as a leader, and I felt like the energy of his group was misaligned. That's why I made such an effort to try to tell them, my opinion. They didn't like my opinion. They thought it was threatening and weird. Yeah, I'm making you uncomfortable, bro, because I'm applying a lot of pressure, but I feel like you honestly need to hear it. You can't wake up somebody who doesn't want to wake up, like in the Matrix. If you try to wake them up and they're not ready, they're going to just try to kill you, right? They're going to think that you are the enemy. So, whatever. Do I care? No, not really. I guess it's a little bit hurtful to realize you've just been removed, like getting fired from a company or something. And I'm like, it's a little bit hurtful. I think that was a bad move. If I ever become a rocket, crown, or diamond, which I believe I will, then okay, I'm gonna know all of the top people on Skool. I'm only one person away from Sam Owens himself. I know a guy who has in direct contact with the fucking, top people. And then you can always say, well, they're not billionaires. Well, they're not heads of government. Well, they're not, part of the oligarchy that rule the world. Well, what if you ever get to that level where you're so big and influential, you know everybody? You don't want to create enemies. The correct thing to do would be to message me and screenshot some of the posts that you thought were uncomfortable or threatening and then damaging, and then you should send them to me and then talk about it. To remove someone without even trying to help them is laziness and offensive. He's all acting like, oh, I deleted the thread because I don't want any negativity. And I was personally attacking his character. I said, you're an incompetent leader, dude. You just allow people to make decisions for you. You have no backbone. I don't respect a guy who has no backbone. People felt threatened, so we made a decision. Decision was made. I'm like, bro, okay, well, this is an eye-opener for me. If someone is like me and is just annoyed or is in their masculine energy and they're commenting a lot of opinionated things and it's bothering people, then the correct thing to do out of love for that person, is to try to explain to them how you're making people feel. I know I was pissing people off because I'm a troll. I said what I felt like needed to be said for them to have a realistic analysis of what success actually is. Bro, you're not gonna automate you fucking succeeding. That's why nobody's in your group. Do you know what I mean? That's why nobody takes you seriously because you're trying to sell a shortcut and you're lazy, is what I'm basically saying. Well, I don't like that. Well, that hurts my feelings. Well, yeah, I mean, I know that was gonna hurt your feelings, but I felt like you needed to hear it. Okay? Tough love. And then the admins can say, Benjamin, these comments are really bothering people. And if you would like to stay in the group, please try to refrain specifically from XYZ. At least the Schoolers admins will message you and tell you why you violated a rule. There was no communication. That's why I was pissed off. No communication, just removed. Okay, well, that's kind of annoying. Now I want to actually create some pain and chaos because I'm annoyed at you. That's probably not good karma, but I feel like, when people are hostile with you, you kind of want to respond with hostility, and maybe sometimes I have been hostile to some people in my group, and maybe that has caused a bad taste in their mouth. And look, I am sorry. I'm just trying to get results in a fast timeline. I'm an ENTJ. Sometimes ENTJs come across as heartless and cold and very judgmental, you know. Like, but I feel like the people that I was cold with are really took my advice into consideration and are really doing a lot right now, and they're building a lot of momentum, and I see it and I'm like, good, that's exactly what you need to do to be successful. So, yes, I annoyed you and it stung a little bit, but you're clearly growing very quickly. I don't know, sometimes tough love is annoying, sometimes it can help. But anyways, so what can I learn from this? If someone was in my group and they were kind of being annoying and it was bothering people, then we would chat about it if I had some admins. And then I'd say, okay, well, first we'll at least attempt to make contact with them. I would make contact with the person out of a love and a concern for them. He's all acting like he's positive vibes. Oh, well, I'm sending you love, man. No, you didn't. You didn't send me love. You didn't ask me, why I was commenting or like tell me anything about how it makes people feel. You were lazy and an incompetent ruler, an incompetent leader. Hey, Benjamin, these kinds of posts are kind of bothering people. You're making very opinionated, dogmatic statements, and it feels like you're attacking people on their level of success or motivation, okay? And it's off-putting, and, if you'd like to stay in the group, we'd ask you to please refrain from doing that. We do have a 3-strike policy. You should have a 3-strike policy. If you strike out 3 times within like 3 months, then, we're going to kick you out. But if you've had a month of good behavior, then we'll delete one of the strikes. That's what I think, honestly, is a good security protocol for your group. Listen, man, sometimes we're just in a bad mood or we feel like trolling. One guy said something really crazy to me. I don't know if he was drugged out or not, but it freaked me out a little bit. And I was like, dude, I don't know if you're on drugs or if you're doing weird shit or what, but you're freaking me out, man. So I had to leave his group. And I'm like, I like you as a person, but I don't know why you said that to me. It's kind of weird, bro. It's kind of sus, man. It reminds me of like people who are like tweaking out. Like I know what it's like when people are like tweaking, and like I'm not proud of that, but I understand what it's like when you're like drugged out and like saying crazy shit, and like that's what it felt like to me, the energy. And I was like, dude, you need to get cleaned up, man. There's a guy in here that has a sobriety group. You might want to join his group, bro. Like, clean yourself up. Stop saying crazy shit. Stop freaking people out, man. I like you as a person. I think you're interesting and cool, but not when you seem like a safety hazard. So maybe they felt like I was a safety hazard, threatening guy. I mean, clearly I'm friendly with the whole Goosify community, and it's like, not that I have any social power at all right now, but anyways, I learned from this. I will try to make contact with them, even if I feel like I want to just throw them out of the group. I'll try to talk to them. I'll try to get their POV. I'll try to understand where they're coming from. Try to understand their intention. Are you just being like a know-it-all kind of arrogant, pompous asshole? Or are you just pissy and just in a bad mood? Or like, are you trying to help people, but they just don't like it? Dude, I can understand if a bunch of people are saying like this dude is getting on my nerves, then obviously that might not be a good fit for the group. But I would look at that person's motive and intention, and I would say, well, he's not breaking any rules, but he is saying that we should try to be more productive and stop trying to automate, success so much. You know, is there any truth into what he's saying? Just because you don't like it doesn't mean that it's, you know, bad. Just means that you personally just don't like it. So I don't know. Should you throw someone out of your group that people just don't like? I mean, I will try to make a point of contact with them. I will highlight what they have said. And then I'll say, this is just how you're making several people feel, blah, blah, blah. He said dozens of people report dozens, like 24, like 36 people. I pissed 36 people off because of my masculinity. I mean, oh my God, I'm sorry. But I want you to look at every single one of those comments that I left. Was any of that actually valid? Was I saying that to be arrogant, or was I saying that because I thought that that would help them? Anyways, we don't care. Sometimes they'll just crucify the messenger. Even if you're trying to help them and you're trying to spread the light, they'll just crucify you. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. Off with your head. So, anyways, that was an interesting back and forth. I'm surprised he responded to every comment, but I was like, dude, you're going to create enemies when you remove people without giving them a shot. You did not give me a shot. There was no due process. That's the thing about Facebook groups and like school groups and then even Reddit communities. I've gotten into it with some admins of Reddit subreddits. The admin just has like total power, totalitarian power. There's no democracy. They just own the subreddit. Why? Because they were the first person that created the subreddit. There's been times where I feel like there was a breach of power with admins and moderators, even in Reddit groups. And I'm like, this is what annoys me. Like, there should be some kind of democracy when it comes to, running like communities on a large platform. But basically, everyone has total power. You can throw people out. You can block people. You don't even have to have a reason for doing it. But it creates a huge backlash of negativity, even hostility, even maybe downright hatred. So just got to be careful. So what can I learn from this? Try to make contact with them, try to talk to them, maybe they're just having a bad day. Maybe they're just in a, red mood, try, if you really care about people and you really think you're this loving, peaceful guy, like, then it would help them to explain to them why you're upsetting people, or what, up until that point, I had no idea that many people were upset with me. I probably was trolling a little bit, but okay. If you really cared about people, then the right thing to do would be to coach them onto why are people feeling this way, and don't just immediately cut their head off. Like, give them a slap on the wrist and then give them a little bit of candy and say, listen, maybe you didn't mean it. Maybe it was misunderstanding, but this is how you made people feel. And, we want to keep you in the group. You want to let people feel like they are included. Even, you know what I mean? It's so easy to go into dictator mode and say, well, it's my group. I'll do whatever the fuck I want. But that's bad parenting. And my parents did that to me all the time. Well, I'm the parent and you're my child, so you must obey me. They would literally tell me that. And I was like, oh, you don't understand. I want to stomp your fucking face in right now. Do you know what I mean? I had a violent childhood, There's a lot of violence and aggression in my, inner world. But do you know what I mean? Like, so anyways, you don't want any haters. You don't want anybody out to get you. But I think this is the correct protocol moving forward. Try to make contact with them. Tell them what's going on. Don't just throw them out of the group, because they're going to hate you. And then they're going to want to, retaliate the pain that they felt like you inflicted upon them. You can say, well, it's a harmless action. I didn't directly hurt them. I just deleted them from the group. It's a hurtful thing, man. It hurts to be rejected, and it hurts to be, kicked out of anything. it's a hurtful thing to do. So, yeah, anyways, moving forward, I don't want to go back into his group, you know. I think he's kind of a coward. I think we have a huge clash of personality differences. I'm a dominant guy. I'm a spiritual person. I'm wearing fucking pink right now and I'm still alpha, but it's like, you know, conflict is not a bad thing. Sometimes conflict is inevitable. Can you learn from conflict? I don't mind if you disagree with me. I don't mind if you tell me that I'm wrong, you know? I have no problem with someone telling me you're wrong and you're full of shit and this is why. I will literally respect someone if they walk up to me and say you're fucking wrong. Then I'll be like I'll be surprised and then I'll be like taken aback and then I'll say, well, why do you think I'm wrong? You know, like honestly, it doesn't bother me. What does bother me is when people make hasty decisions that are going to have some pretty intense backlashes and consequences. You know, kicking someone out of a fucking Facebook group or a Reddit or a school group. I mean, come on, bro. Don't be such a crybaby. But at the same time, like, what if this was a political mastermind? What if you were starting to meet like really important people? What if you were in fraternities and lines have been drawn? Then you have no choice but to make a decision, or you try to be neutral, but you know both sides will not allow you to be neutral. You must pick one or the other side. Lines are going to be drawn. There's going to be tension. There's going to be conflict. You know, well, you decided to go with them, so unfortunately now that makes you kind of like my opponent, my enemy. You know, think about politics. You know, they're so nasty, Republicans and Democrats. You know, forcing you to pick sides and join teams. So, what can you learn from this? There are consequences for every action. We may not think it's a big deal if I cuss someone out or I tell them off, but it may have a big reaction. I mouthed off to him, you know, I told him I think this is incompetent leadership. You know, maybe there's repercussions for me saying that, but personally, I don't think my motivation is evil. I think my motivation is it's hurtful and I'm annoyed and I think you're a coward, you know? Okay, that's it. I think you're a coward. I deleted the thread after I said it. I just wanted you to know what I thought and then I deleted it. I deleted the whole thread. And you could say maybe I'm being a little bit hateful, so I don't want to get in trouble with the admins, you know, in that group, but yeah, you act like you're so peace and love, kumbaya, but you guys are kind of cliquish and, you know, you have your little group chats where you gossip about people in your group. I know that's what you're doing, you know, slanderous. Okay, anyways, these are just my 2 cents. Every action is going to have a consequence and a reaction. Before I cut someone's head off, I'm going to try to give them an opportunity to voice themselves and defend themselves. Okay? This is very harmless, just a fucking Facebook or school group. But if it becomes like higher and higher and higher level things and emotions get involved, you know, diplomacy is better than, you know, hostile actions. All right. What do you think? You think I'm just overreacting? Probably. Dude, get over it. It's a fucking school group. Who cares? You got kicked out of a school group. Boo hoo. They didn't like you. They didn't think you were valuable. They think you're weird. They think you're weird. He told me, I'll just let you embarrass yourself on this thread. I'm like, bro, I'm not embarrassed. You know, I don't know. Maybe part of me gets off on the conflict. Maybe I like a little bit of conflict. You know, like, oh, I'm embarrassing myself now, huh? So many people said you're a fucking weirdo. I'm like, okay, well, I did say all of them are lazy, kind of delusional people lying to people about automating, you know, success. Okay, go get that robot to go print you off millions of dollars, man. You know, some people have pulled it off and they can pull it off. They've got a whole army of like AI drones and they're just rich as shit and they don't have to do anything. Okay. But for everybody else who's not some kind of tech gazillionaire, you got to work, man. Okay. You got to get your ass to work.